attending another press conference at my office. I've seen over the past few days, in fact over the past couple of days, that President Granger has returned from one of his sojourns abroad and was confronted by the media. And he was asked about his engagement, the low level of engagement with the media, and what plans he has in the future to address this. So let's get a few facts straight, and I think it's nothing new to those who have been writing in the media and those who've been reading what has been written, that President Granger, in over 3 years of his government, held 2 press conferences, about 30 minutes each. He spoke about 20 minutes at each of those press conferences and took on average 5 questions at each of the 2. So 2 press conferences in over 3 years, and the media got to ask him approximately those questions. So this is what the president said: as soon as I have more time, I will engage the media. I'm asking the media to be tolerant. This is a direct quotation from the president. He claimed that he was busy. He said, last week, I was in Montego Bay. 2 weeks before that in Vietnam. I've been traveling quite a lot and have to deal with domestic issues. Petroleum industry, the sugar industry, and I have to deal with crime and security. Now, let us look at that, how busy the president has been. Yes, he has been traveling a lot, but what's the purpose of the travel? A speech in Vietnam, that's meaningless. A meaningless speech in Vietnam. You read it, and there's no substance to it. What did he bring back from Vietnam that will forward the interests of Guyana? What did he do in Montego Bay that will change the lives of our people? So he's busy traveling, yes, but achieving nothing in his travels, just racking up miles. And secondly, he said, I have to deal with domestic issues, and shamelessly cites the petroleum industry. He's dealing with it. I don't want to go back through all the unanswered issues that we have in the petroleum industry. The Petroleum Commission, now moving forward, it's stuck in Parliament. No sovereign wealth fund, no local content legislation, no decision on how they would address future blocks, whether they attended them or not, etc., etc., etc. And then he is dealing with the sugar industry. What is he dealing with in the sugar industry? They've laid off 7,000 people, no social safety net. People are struggling out there they can't even make a living. They can't feed their families. They've raised 30 billion through the SPU. They're not saying what they will spend the money on. 17.5 billion is sitting in a bank account at NISIL already that has come in, and the rest will come in soon. And they haven't decided what they will spend it on as yet, or they have not made it public. No plan. And we're paying interest on it. Every year we'll pay just close to $2 billion, or just under 2 billion from the 30 billion in interest for not using the money. The president has been addressing the sugar industry so much that he can't even name a board. But he's busy doing that a 15-minute task, a 10-minute task, just saying, let me see the names. Okay, I agree with them. But he's busy. He would have us believe he's busy doing that. That's the second issue that he said he's busy with. And the third issue, that he has to deal with crime and security. When this country is being ravaged on a daily basis by criminals, and we have a hopelessly misguided, inept government that gives all the wrong signals to our security forces in addressing the crime. He received a report sometime last year from a British consultant, and he said when he received that report, this will end all crime in Guyana. The PPP was only bluffing. Those were his direct words. Until now, we have not seen the light of, the report has not seen the light of day. And I doubt whether it has even been discussed in the cabinet. We don't see any specific measures being rolled out. They can't move ahead with the appointment of a substantive commissioner of police. But he would have us believe that he is so busy addressing these three things plus his travels that he cannot speak to the media. Find 30 minutes to hold a press conference once a week. Now, Kaichor News article, Starbuck News article said 3 minutes. He took 3 minutes to talk to the reporters before being physically separated from them by his security staff. This is how the president engages with the media. He abruptly gave a 3 minutes comment and then said, be patient, be tolerant, children. I'm busy, therefore wait your turn. I'll answer whenever I want. So this was on July 10th, Starbuck News reported that, and some other media houses. So I wasn't surprised that the Kaichor News on July 11th, 1 day later, would say, Jagdeo, I don't need other party members at my press conferences, Jagdeo. So at least I have press conferences. But I think the Kaichor News, which is an apologist for Granger, had to find something that, oh, Jagdeo is a one-man show. That's what they claim in the article. He wants to hold press conferences every week. I thought that you should be happy that the Kaichor News that I'm holding a press conference. Contrast that with the behavior of the president. I don't make excuses, and I sit here for over an hour and answer all the questions. All the questions. I don't hide from the media, but this is an attempt by Kaichor News to contrast the behavior. Okay, well, he's not doing anything, forget about him. But Jagdeo is holding all these press conferences by himself. And Jagdeo wouldn't even allow a moderator. He does the job by himself. So I have to have a moderator here sitting down there, so you can ask the moderator to ask me the question. You have to go through the moderator, and then that will satisfy the Kaichor News. And then, further to that, well, let me give you a couple of examples. So, on one hand, I am hugging everything. And just 2 weeks ago, a reporter from the Kaichor News asked me, why don't you go on the parliamentary sectorial committee? Why don't you replace some of the others? You'll do a better job. And they asked me, why don't you speak more in Parliament? We don't see you talking enough in Parliament, all the other parliamentarians. Heaven forbid, Jagdeo allowing all these parliamentarians to talk and rarely speaks in the Parliament. So, on one hand, they want me to go and speak more in Parliament. What are you doing, you know? Are you ceding your responsibility there because you're allowing all these parliamentarians to speak, and you're not? And why don't you take over the sectorial committee too? More control, but here, at the leader of the opposition press conference, I must not do it alone. Well, We have a number, Kaichur News, if it is so concerned about this, should, and the positions of our members of parliament and the sectors that they now are tasked with answering for, that they should at least have the decency when they're writing stories to call those people, and when they call them, reflect the answers that they give the Kaichur News accurately, not pick little bits, snippets, and to make them look bad. They should call the parliamentarians. So you can get a daily, not once a week, a daily feedback on any issue in the health sector. Call our spokesperson who deals with health matters for comment. And call the former Attorney General, Anil Nandalal, for comment. Or Gail Teixeira, or Ed Hill, or someone else. So you get their views on a daily basis, and please carry their views, because they complain to me that, first of all, they don't get the calls, and secondly, even when they speak to the Kaichur News and similar outfits, their views are distorted. That's why they're reluctant to speak. So if you're so concerned about getting the views and comments from other people, please do that. Please do that. And the other thing is, I don't need to tell the Kaichur News and the others about the changes I'm making at the party level. Maybe sometime in the future, to broaden the base of the party, to decentralize leadership, to bring in more young people, fresh faces, etc. And that is what I'm doing. So you may see me come to the press conference because it's the leader of the opposition press conference. We have many of our members who go on programs. Anil Nandalal has a program that is basically a party program that he does in Berbice. Gail Teixeira has one on Channel 6, one full hour per week. We have some of our MPs on radio who give their views. They write letters. Sometimes the letters don't even get published. So they find there is nothing on our side that prevents people from expressing their views. So I would just like, this should not be a fig leaf. My presence here alone should not be a fig leaf for Granger. In fact, he's abdicating his responsibility. If anything, I'm here too often. Not, maybe I might feel that. But this government generates so many scandals on a weekly basis that if you leave, you miss a week, you can't catch up with the scandals. So that's why I have to come here, and I'll deal with some of the scandals shortly. So let's move on. We've heard quite a bit about the so-called poor performance of our members at the Parliamentary Committee on Natural Resources. And now, when in our preparation for the meeting, which involve a number of people who, former Prime Minister, President Samuel Hines, Robeson Ben, who was a former commissioner of GGMC, a number of other individuals, we made it clear, we're not going there to catch ExxonMobil on anything. We were going there in Parliament, the committee level, to bring to ExxonMobil and to members of the public and the concerns that we have heard about from analysts, from the newspapers, from people on the street, and concerns that we have too about the industry. That was the purpose there. Not to demonize ExxonMobil. So if we didn't fit that bill, then maybe that was not the purpose. Our MPs didn't do that. That was not the purpose of our engagement. In fact, Odinga Lumumba pointed us out to say, we're not hostile. We, in fact, ExxonMobil came to Guyana under the PPP. But we wanted to find out some things that are bothering all of Guyana. And so what were these things that the members brought to the attention of the ExxonMobil and requested answers from them? Now, the public has to make its own decision whether ExxonMobil was forthcoming in giving answers to those questions, whether we are any clearer on these matters. So here were some of the questions that were asked, that's been in the public domain. Who initiated the renegotiation of the contract? Was it ExxonMobil or the government of Guyana that asked for a renegotiation of the contract? This has been a critical question because it's important for us. No answer was given, but a question was posed. On the signing bonus, ExxonMobil was asked what equation or strategy was used to come up with a figure of $18 million. Why not a bigger figure or a smaller figure? But can you tell us about the equation that was used? No answer was given to that question too, because that has been a huge issue, including in the Kaichor News, about why 18 million, why not a bigger figure? And so that question was posed there. The question was posed that on local content, did you receive any guidance from the government on local content in the absence of legislation? And there was a talk about it, but basically no guidance came from the government to ExxonMobil in the absence of legislation. Now, Kaichor News mentioned about that some of the members asked extraneous questions about the sugar workers. What was asked is that, is ExxonMobil funding any training for the 100 sugar workers that were recently trained by the Ministry of Natural Resources? Is ExxonMobil training those, contributing to that training? The answer was no. Then the members of parliament also asked about whether ExxonMobil is funding a political strategy. This was the green state economy. Now, the green state economy has not received the approval of the National Assembly. Right now, it is in its conceptual stage. That's a political initiative of Granger until it has parliamentary approval as far as we're concerned. And in all likelihood, we'll scrap it as soon as we get into office because it makes no sense, in all likelihood. And so right now, it's that. So the member of parliament was saying, how could you give $10 million for the funding of a essentially political strategy to go out and consult all over the country, to go to communities and consult about a strategy when there is nothing really that benefits people. And to define the details of the strategy. Secondly, they asked, why CI? Is this not a valid concern too? Why Conservation International? Isn't there another organization, a local organization that could be part of this? And then somebody said that CI has a watchdog role. Would it not affect their watchdog role in Guyana? These are valid questions. People may not like them, but you can't disparage the MPs for asking the questions. because you don't like the questions that are asked. And obviously ExxonMobil made it clear that they are not interested in politics, it's hogwash. And I was pleased about that too. Because APNO has been on the ground saying that ExxonMobil, the reason they had to give this lucrative contract to ExxonMobil is because ExxonMobil promised to keep them in office for a long time. That's what they're telling their supporters. So I was pleased that in this case, that ExxonMobil made it clear they're apolitical, etc. These are burning questions on the minds of thousands of Guyanese that our members of parliament were bringing there to the attention of the public. Now, you may not ask the question in a manner that some people like, but you can't disparage them. And finally, natural gas. The minister has been talking about natural gas, and the chairman of the committee asked, have you done a study? And he probed. And if you look at the probing, you would see how much of it was, I just want to take you through how Odinga Lumumba dealt with this matter. Odinga asked asked by the chairman, I just want to read this, asked by the chairman of the committee, PPP Civic MP Odinga Lumumba, if the company has completed a study on the matter. This is on natural gas. Henson replied, we have done much study work on this matter. Absolutely. We have internal studies. Absolutely. But pressed further on if he could release that information to the committee, he simply said no. Odinga would probe further on the feasibility study and why the company did not want to give the committee a document on its research of the project. You're saying that is feasible and a study was done, Odinga asked. This is not difficult in the realm of oil and gas, sir, respectfully. You don't need a feasibility study from a technical standpoint. This is very feasible, Henson said. And then Odinga quipped, technically and financially, because it could be technically feasible. Financially, Lumumba queried, to which Henson replied, yes. You're not ready to give a document on this? The chairman interrupted, and again Henson said, no. Why not? A seemingly puzzled Lumumba pressed on. Because, and then the response was, because we are not at that point yet. We are at the normal point of discussion, where it gets to be, how much it costs, what capital investment, what power plants, all these things, we are not there yet, Henson replied. And yet, there is a feasibility study, a study. So, one wonders what's driving it. Elsewhere, we heard Patterson said they're borrowing $20 million to do a study. They had a desktop study done by the Mexicans at the cost of 70,000 US is not adequate to make a commitment to that sort of project. You have to have a full-fledged feasibility study, which this government has not done or shared with anyone. So they expect us to, by an act of faith, this whole country, the parliamentary opposition, 32 members there, to accept their word that they have an internal study in ExxonMobil that they're not prepared to share with the committee, and our government has a desktop study, and we're moving ahead with this project. That was the probing, and it pains me when people say bad things about our MP in that manner, because they sought to, without being hostile, try to solicit answers to every one of the questions that have been in the public domain. And so, but they get run down. And so I was very unhappy about that, the characterization of the people. And the next point is the SARA working to retrieve assets, the saga of SARA. So 200 billion lost between 2010 and 2014 from corruption, SARA CEO. So July 9th, 2018, DPI. So this is, we quote Mr. Etimaya. We've been losing between 28 and 35 billion every year between 2010 and 2014 by procurement fraud. This is July 9, 2018. Now, I've addressed this issue 1 million times. This 28 to 35 billion started off as an allegation by Anand Gulsaran. Then it found its way into the APNU's manifesto. It's in their manifesto. Since then, they have gone silent. I want to ask the publishers, the editors of the Stabroek News once again to please allow Anand Gulsaran 2 pages of your newspapers to explain, because we have sought this, to explain how 28 to 35 billion dollars was stolen per year between 2010 to 2014 by procurement fraud. I don't know if I can make that request through the reporters here. Can you please ask your editors or publishers to give him 2 pages just to explain, even 1 page. This is a blatant lie, because then he would have to go to which projects. You can't say that. You would have to say X project we lost $1 billion on, a Y project it was tendered in a particular fashion, so we lost $500 million there. He has no details, absolutely nothing. It's a figment of his imagination. If it was 28 to 35 billion there, hypothetically, it's 500 billion now today, using the same logic, because the stealing has increased 100-fold. And that's not, my maths is bad. You multiply 35 by 100, that should give you the magnitude of it, really. But he repeats this in 2018. Imagine by now, somebody needs to ask Retimiah, where did it happen? And if so much money was stolen, why is it you can't charge someone up to now for 101 million of the 35 billion that was stolen per year? Why you can't charge somebody for 1 million, stealing 1 million of the 35 billion that was stolen per year and disappeared? So that's one. Again, I have to come back to this because they're working on people's minds. This is how APNU works. They drop this issue out there. So he then goes on to say illicit capital flights, $90 billion. Just ask Retimiah how he calculated this. $90 billion of illicit capital flight. Capital flight takes place a lot when you don't have confidence in the economy. People send away their money. So, again, a fictitious figure. And then he goes on to say the underground economy, drugs, about 100 billion. So we're losing $100 billion from the underground economy. The underground economy is bigger than drugs. The underground economy is the taxi drivers who don't maybe not paying taxes, or the vendors, etc. They're part of the underground economy. The OECD countries, that's the developed countries of the world, they have an estimate, if you check it online, about 20% of their economy is considered underground economy. In the US, it's about 9% of the US economy. 9% is equivalent to $2 trillion US, not billion, $2 trillion US. That's bigger than the whole economy of India. That is the size of the underground economy in the United States of America. And Retimiah will clean ours. He said it's gone to zero now because they got rid of all of this stuff since APNU took office. It's zero now. Retimiah and Clive Thomas have cleaned the underground economy. They need to send them to give technical assistance to the US and the whole Europe and everyone else who can't get rid of their underground economy. This is a feature in almost every country. People avoid taxes. There is some prostitution. There is drug dealing, there is some smuggling, and the smuggling continues. So it shows how stupid, utterly stupid we have policy makers just saying these things without any regard for facts, without any regard for calculation, etc. They're political. So now he goes on to say, to date, over 2 million acres of land were retrieved. 2 million acres of land they retrieve because from the underground economy. So the media needs to ask him this. Why aren't we asking him? How did you calculate? Where is this 2 million acres they retrieved? So he said there was also the seizure of some amount of gold. That might be true, but let me give you, he said that they were informed by the international community that the country was losing 15,000 ounces of gold per week. That was in the old manifesto too, an old thing. So if they stop the smuggling of gold, multiply 15,000 ounces per week by 52 weeks, it's 780,000 ounces. Multiply by $1,200, $1,300. That's $1 billion US they're supposed to see inflow into the economy. That's more than the whole gold sector now. Nonsense. So none of that has stopped. Guess what their seizures? He said the seizure of some amount of gold. What have they seized? I got 2 chains from a jeweler and a band. That is what they seized, and they have the man in the court now. That is how they cleared up the 15,000 ounces per week, a 1 billion economy. Now the ambassador said there's gold smuggling at the place there. The ambassador said there will be, because Colombia, the production of cocaine has skyrocketed, that Guyana will see more cocaine transshipped through Guyana, this here, and some of the other countries too. That's just yesterday. And here, they cleaned the economy of all drugs, all drug money, all the gold that was smuggled out. They stopped every illicit activity. They seized 2 million acres of land. This is a dream world. I wonder if when they go to, they're on something that they wake up and hallucinate when they go to these press conferences. Hallucinate. This is not the reality. And the economy is not tanking because they're cleaning up any underground economy. The economy is tanking because all the main sectors are doing badly and because of bad policies by this government. So please ask them about these. Take this and ask them, how did you calculate? Isn't this just old rhetoric? If you have all of this, when are you charging people for all of this transgression? So we move on now to, I saw David Hines, and this is catching on a bit because the new thing seems to be dictatorship and racism in Guyanese cricket. Can we talk about this, Mr. Jagdeo? So this is Hines. Well, let me say to Mr. Hines, you might see me a lot at the cricket and stuff. I like cricket, I like football, I like boxing, but I don't follow up who is being picked, etc. If you ask me, I didn't even know the under-15 team was picked, frankly speaking. But David Hines said that I am responsible somehow that the statistic would shock Guyanese. The 14-man squad that represented Guyana, the regional under-15 tournament in Jamaica earlier this year, included 11 Indian Guyanese and 3 African Guyanese players. And somehow, Jagdeo has a responsibility for this. Now, I don't know the players, I don't know their names, I have no role absolutely in this cricket issue. But I don't want to go through how divisive this can be. Our cricket, our sports, we've all rallied around our sportsmen. Not because of their race, but because they're ours, they're Guyanese, regardless of their race. And so please don't let us introduce this. But he said, so Mr. Jagdeo, this is one area of race relations I would love to discuss with you with the aim of changing it. And I would love to change anything that treats people or judges them on the basis of their race. Any system in Guyana, whether it's in cricket, football, or any part of government, or anything else. So I want to say publicly to David Hines that maybe your target is misplaced. I know you are a supporter of this government, and that regardless of the occasional criticism, you want them to stay in power. You have made that clear. So if you just took a bit of time to find out what has happened in the administration of cricket in Guyana, you will find that of the Indian names that you have listed in another letter, that at least 4 of them were with the coalition government in the last election, before the campaign, and they are financiers and campaigners for the AFC APNU coalition, although there might be Indian names there. And from that list that he has put out. Secondly, that look at the Cricket Administration Bill, which became the Act. The PPP government consulted widely, including with the West Indies Cricket Board, drafted a piece of legislation in 2013, put it to the Parliament after there was a big controversy in cricket. And there was a very important feature of that draft. The draft included the Upper Demerara as a separate area. Upper Demerara falling under Demerara. And for the first time, they will have separate say in cricket administration. Now, Upper Demerara, for those who don't know, it's mainly Linden. So we included that in the draft. It went, although we had widespread consultation, APNU at that time in opposition asked that it go to a select committee. And for 1 year, it stayed in the select committee, and almost everyone who mattered had a chance to come and present their views before the select committee. Came out the select committee, and 2014, it was passed into law. So here is a PPP government, an Indian government, that's what David Hines is saying, seeking to include a voice for Upper Demerara region, 10 mainly, Linden, in the administration of cricket. Now, what has happened since then? Because some of those players who were opposed to this inclusion are close to APNU, nothing has happened from 2014 to now in terms of operationalizing this bill. And so recently, Mr. Roysdale Ford filed a constitutional motion to say the bill is unconstitutional, that there should now be no inclusion of Upper Demerara, Linden, in this thing. Should be the old model. So guess one would think that the Attorney General and the people who were part of this, give support, unanimous support to this bill, would vigorously defend the bill. They practically are not defending the bill. So if you don't, the act rather. So if you don't defend it, then Roysdale Ford would succeed in killing this act, because there would be no defense. So some others had to hire, and now in the name of Roger Harper, they've retained an attorney now to be part of the defense of the act. Imagine, private people have to go and defend this act that was passed unanimously, that sought to give a voice to the people in Region 10, Linden, Afro-Guyanese, and David Hines says we are responsible. He needs to call Basil Williams and the others and ask them, why aren't you operationalizing this act? Why aren't you fighting this case vigorously? That is how it changes. So, yeah, I don't want to debate Mr. Hines on this because I don't know that much about cricket. I like cricket, I like to play cricket, but I don't follow it every day now. And I don't know all the players, but we have a lot of competent people who will show the PPP's track record on this and how we treated sport. If you look at the presidential grant, you will see that when I was president, you will see how many football grounds and how many clubs got money from the government directly to support that sport too. In fact, maybe more than cricket that we put there. And so we should have something. Then I've noticed that Mr. Barrel said Jagdeo has no moral something to talk about corruption. So he's come back after I released the statement that I promised to, going into great detail. And I hope you have seen it, because on Saturday, the Kaichur News gave Barrel's version and said Jagdeo did not release the statement that he promised when it was already released. So the statement has been released, and of course he went into a tirade because so Jagdeo is bad, Jagdeo should go to jail, Jagdeo is corrupt, all sorts of things. I don't have much to say to Barrel. The $5 million US that he benefited from because of this government being complicit in this transfer, the dilution of our shares from 38%, the shares of the people of this country, from 38% to 7%, they're complicit, this government, that it means a $5 million US transfer into the Barrel's pocket. That is what I'm concerned about. That's specific. That's not a wild charge. And I made specific, the statement made specific charges about the company incorporated in Trinidad and Tobago with the exact same name as the ones here. The one here, Ghana Stockfeed Limited. It spoke about Neocol and how it's been treated, the company relationship. It spoke about Popeyes, specific. Now, for Barrel, there are 3 places that should be dealing with Barrel: Sara, Soku, and the GRA. But they will never do that. They will never do that. And so we may very well have to refer this matter to one of these, an agency. We'll think about which one, because they all defend the government. But this is one matter we'll have a long-term interest in, but Mr. Barrel. We'll have a long-term interest in this matter. So, but this is a pattern for this government. So, Barrel, financier, supporter, gets a nice $5 million US gift. Then Larry Singh, another supporter, he gets a contract for the bond. He collects 170-something million a year for a house, renting a house to the government. And then another Bharrat Singh now. Bharrat Singh, they had campaign meetings in his home in the US before the elections. We have pictures with him and the others. And all of that would surface. And so he came here after the coalition got into office, and then he got a single source contract to supply fertilizer for 400 and something million. And when asked, the Minister of Agriculture said, oh, he walked into my office, he had a good price. I told him to go give him the contract. And now he had a good price here, that's what they did. So guess what they did? There was a double corruption in this thing here. So they didn't go to open tender. You know, they used to talk about GPC. But in every case, we had a competitive process to pre-qualify the people that you are shortlisted. A competitive process. So guess what they did? They shortlisted some of the sympathizers, shortlisted them. So no competitive process for the bidding. So they came up with a list of their own, shortlisted them without any competitive process to get there. And that's critical if you have a competitive process. Secondly, so that's the first act of corruption. And then secondly, even the people they shortlisted, then they shafted them to their own thing, the ones. So one of them who was shortlisted has a building, an old house with a broken down fence over the river as a big supplier. That is his office. And when you look at the beneficial owner, you can't look at who incorporate the company. You have to look at the beneficial owners. So a lot of the companies now that are being incorporated, you have to look at beneficial owners because a lot of front companies are being created. And so he was one of them. But this is another payoff. So let me say to APNU supporters, you're not going to get any help from this government if you're poor. APNU supporters. And PPP supporters, I think most of them have resigned themselves. You know, they're going to get shafted too. So, APNU supporters, you're a farmer, Afro-Guyanese farmer, or a vendor, like several of the vendors came to me from Diamond, and they want to throw them off the road now. They're making a living there. I told our NDC not to, although we don't control the road reserves, do not collaborate with the government to take bread away from anyone's mouth. Those people are there, they're making a living. Many are single parents. That's what they're doing, throwing them off. Most of them are Afro-Guyanese. Throwing them off. They're not going to benefit from this. They're Badal, Larry Singh, Hardat Singh, who dole out a lot of money, will cream all the benefits and the big ones in government. And ordinary people will get no help from this government, including APNU supporters. So I hope that the promises again, because they started going out. I see they're going now to visit. And you should check how much taxpayers' money they're spending now, already started. The last time they spent over 50 million on traveling to Mabaruma, to Bartica, and to Letem. So the teams have started going in to campaign in these areas already. They've given 55 million to campaign in the city, to the councillors. So this has started, but these are so this is something. These are the people who are going to cream all the benefits. And then the last thing I deal with here is our dear Prime Minister. We were so grateful to see him in the newspapers for taking time off his busy schedule to go and watch football at Orange Walk. He's so busy, you know, like our dear president. This guy is busy doing nothing. He has an absolute waste of time. So he does that, and then I see in his writing again, Jagdeo is bad, the PPP shafted him. I saw the last article, and guess what? Nothing new. He is the hero of the story again. I've never seen a man write about himself where he's the central figure in any story. Like this Prime Minister that we got. He does nothing. Absolutely nothing. Waste of time. So I hope that we get rid of this parasite very soon too. Because they're just sucking the blood out of taxpayers now. Thank you very much.
Mr. Jagdeo, good afternoon. French Control News. The last time your MPs would have sat through the committee meeting, Natural Resources Committee, you said you weren't happy. Are you happy this time with your performance? And you mentioned mention a couple of names. Former Prime Minister, Mr. Rosenthal, has been advised as a person that sat through the pre-briefing. Can you say if Charles Ramson was part of that, since he is an oil and gas expert?
No, he was not.
Why not?
Well, the thing is that in this case, Charles Ramson was not invited to the meeting. I'd like, why not Nandalal? Because Nandalal knows probably better contracts than that. Why not Irfan Ali as a economist? Why not Gail Chatera from the governance perspective? Why not a Priya Manikchan from another view? If every time I have to do that, why not this one? Why that one? Then all day long I'll have people here who say I'm campaigning for one or another. And so that's one. And two, why not? Why not that we talk about the contract itself? We talk about the contract itself. We talk about things that go beyond just law. And so these are people who have had a long history of natural resources management. What we did, we took all the public comments. We took every single thing that had been in the public domain, from the analysts, from the international community, from the people who have come to guide us. We came up with a long list of things. We said, what are the biggest issues that affect or what are the biggest issues in people's minds? And these were the ones we settled on. Oil and the gas, the contract negotiation itself, the calculation of the bonus, those are the issues, the political issues, local content. So it wasn't rocket science. It was, we went there with issues that had been in the public domain for the last 2 years. It's not like we have to go and get another set of technical issues, but just to focus on them. And I'm pleased that in their own way, they stuck with the agenda. We sought answers, we did not get the answers we sought. On gas, on the contract itself, etc.
Members' performance.
I think in the circumstances, I didn't see it directly, but from what I read, and I didn't read only the Kaichor News, I read even the Chronicle had a better, which strangely, had a better explanation of things. So Kaichor News say, oh, they brought in about sugar. And sugar was brought in from the training perspective. Did you participate in training? And then about the minister talking about, Pauline Sakai talking about the Green State strategy. But that's true. That's a political initiative. It is true. That's what we discussed at our meeting. How you, at YCI, all of those issues came out. So I think they address the issues that we discussed at the meeting, that people across Guyana want to get answers to. And that's the purpose of members of any committee, to bring them there. There is always, at the end of it, there's always room for improvement. I would not put my head on a block and say, you know, yes, we were perfect. I'll never do that. There's room for improvement.
In relation to the Green State, you said it was scrapped. Without seeing, you said there's nothing prepared as yet. You haven't seen anything prepared. But you're scrapping it.
No, I saw the paper, and that's why I'm saying it is a cut and paste of best practices from around the world. It will add cost. I disagree with its fundamental premise. The premise which brings cost to the country versus earning money for the country. The low carbon development strategy was an economic strategy. It earned money for Guyana. The Green State strategy so far is about expenditure from our treasury. That is why conceptually we disagree with it. And this is why we had specific things. So under our our LCDS, we said we're going to spend 10.5 million US on Amerindian land titling. It solved a problem. Land titles to our Amerindian people, the demarcation. 2, we'll spend 17 million US on ICT in the hinterland. It solved a problem for them. We will spend X amount of money, like 80 million on the hydropower by buying down equity. We will spend money on creating a center for biodiversity studies, an international center for biodiversity studies, so we can start exporting environmental products. That is education. We said we'll spend money on adaptation, so research into crops that were like flood resistant, drought resistant, etc. We set aside money for small loans and small grants to individuals who were in different sectors. I can't remember, there were about 20 initiatives, and we were earning money to do that. We are not taking money from the taxpayers. We're earning money through our strategy. This strategy is about cost. All the time it's about cost to the Guyanese public. Now, right now, they're talking about planting trees and all of that. They missed the whole point that that was an economic strategy to adjust to the future. That's why, conceptually, we have a major difference. And so, this here is a ton of consultants come in, and the document is this big now, this big. And it is like, I've seen it before, half of those things, because they've asked the GGGI to be part of it. I was a member of the think tank. Then when the organization was converted into an international organization, I became the first president of the assembly. 22 countries are part of that body, and including the developed countries. And I was the president of the assembly, the first president of the assembly of the GGGI. So I've seen a lot of those things before. You know, UNEP is doing some of the work here. And so I've worked with UNEP and all of the others. It's just like, look, the speeches would tell you a lot about what that they mean. If you have any interest in this, just look at Granger's speeches and take one that he made the first year he went into Parliament. So this one still talks about biodiversity, coastal zone, solid waste management, ecological. Just look at the first. It has not changed one bit in 3 years. The speeches, same thing, same old thing. Marcel, let me tell you, you work with a financial model. So you saw the amount of studies that were done. And I can share some of these with you. When I was discussing the bridge and the feasibility study on this bridge, I pointed out how much work was done on that bridge. And so there is a financial model where you forecast the tolls and traffic across the bridge, and so tolls and traffic, etc. So I would urge, this government has all the records, to release the financial model that the PVP had. And you will see that when we left office, the revenue was doing better because traffic across the bridge was higher. The model had 2 increases. In the first 8 years or so, no increase. 2014 and 2015 should have gone up. I was told, I asked the guys, because I didn't get to read the entire model. It would have gone up by 6%, just over 6% in 2014, and about 17% in 2015. And then after that, because they would have repaid the bond, there would be a steep decline from the current prices from 2018 onwards to 2020 something, when the bridge would be handed over to the government. So the fares would even get beyond those years, even lower. So those were the two increases contemplated in these years when the bonds start kicking in, and they would service that. That's in the model we left. We don't know what has happened since. These people, they just screw everything up. And so I don't know, because what has happened, if they reduce the price a bit, I think, and then they didn't get the increase in 2014 and 2015, so then what happened is they accumulated deferred maintenance and all of these things. So they may need a larger increase now, which I don't support. A larger increase now to offset that. So people in Berbice can't pay that large increase. So the government has two options. It could, because contractually they have to do the maintenance and everything else, because the bridge will come back to the government. So the government should do one of two things, which was proposed to them in 2015. One, buy out the other shareholders, buy out people, so that more of the bridge becomes publicly owned, or secondly, subsidize the increase that should take place in the toll. So they give an injection into the company so the rate remains flat. And they should do this, and this wouldn't cost them. They waste more money on a daily basis than what it will cost them to do that. And since it's they who proposed that the rates will come down, actually they had a motion to that effect. So what they do now with the financial model will determine who participates in the future, whether they can trust the government in any other project of a similar nature, public-private partnership. So they're in a dilemma now because they're caught by their own rhetoric. And what they did, they deferred all the problems in the 3 years. So now it's catching up on them, because the maintenance, nothing was being done on all those things. And the government practically, through the NIS now, is chairing the board. So the government has the majority there, which I include NIS in government, although it's not purely government. Yes, that's why I'm saying.
Because if it was a PPP government, they would have wrote to that government, and they also refused the increase.
But there was a parliamentary motion. Remember, at that time, there was a motion in Parliament to reduce it, and we didn't have the majority in Parliament. You check the parliamentary motion. I was out of government, but I do remember from somewhere abroad reading about that motion. And so, but I just said to you what I was told was the magnitude of the increases in the financial model, which is very different than what is being proposed now. And so I believe the government, they should not increase the fare, they should just buy out more of the equity in the bridge, or the bonds, etc. Take over those. They've taken those over for, look, they're taking it over for Marriott that they didn't have to do. You know, the debt for Marriott. Why can't you take over the debt for the bridge and then take greater equity as a result of that? And they took over Marriott. They didn't have to do that, because the loan was secured against Marriott's asset. They didn't need a guarantee from the Treasury. So they can easily do that in these cases and then avoid the increase. That's one, or subsidize the increase that is requested to cover all of these, the repayment of the bond and the maintenance. Give the bridge a subsidy and to keep the rate where it is.
I recommend a Bharrat because the investment involved.
No, they can buy out from anyone else. They can buy out from NIS. They can buy the NIS out. They can do anything. Yeah.
Mr. Jagdeo, November here again, on the same issue, the director said that the requested adjustment will continue to be compounded as the years go by. Does the finance
This is precisely, if it's time sensitive, and so in a 6% in a year that should be given in 2014, in 2018, because you did not collect the increased revenue, has jumped now to 70%, and it's normally it's exponential. It's not straight line. So that's why you see the compounding and the magnitude of the increases, because it was time sensitive.
Excuse me, Mr. Jagdeo.
Yes.
Tomorrow from Safety Channel 2. So why don't you take into consideration of sharing your table with Mr. Charles, since he's running for presidential candidate?
Change the table, right?
Share the table.
Or what about, should I share it with everyone else? That's what my point. So everyone who decides they want to run, I should share it with.
Let me hear his view or what is his plan forward.
Yeah, but they will get a chance to present their plans at another level. But what about you? You think I should share it with Gail Teixeira, Irfan Ali, Anil Nandalal, and get all of them to come and tell you what their views are? Or it's only this one person you want me to share it with? Okay, all right, okay. Well, there are several who have declared and yet who say they're yet to declare. And they will declare at the right time. So we may end up with 7, 8. It's a Kwame said he might consider it because he's a member of the Central Committee for how many years, Kwame? You're a long-standing member. Yeah, 6 years in the Central Committee of the party, the highest level of the party. Some of the candidates haven't gotten to Kwame level in the party. So you have a lot of declarants. So my job is to make sure that at the right time, everyone gets a fair shot at the right time. And that is it. That they get a fair shot at it. And that's the job of a General Secretary. Thank you. That she really, I think she, even the hardcore PNC people were upset with her action. So even Valda Lawrence has been critical of Room's action. And it just shows the rush to judgment. The police should be held responsible for locking up the people just like that too. You know, putting them in prison just like that because a minister lies on them. Because she believes that she has a special, you know, she's God sent to Ghana. She got to throw away the cone. Not ask politely, can I go in there, you know, and the minister, she take down her window. Try to bully people. And I have no doubt that they threaten the other people, the guards, with weapons too. Are they going to take away her driver's weapon? So this is typical behavior. It's not untypical of her. It's typical behavior of Simone Rooms. And at least Valda Lawrence had with all her trouble with the health sector and the corruption there, had the decency to criticize her. Thank you.